Greetings, Guardians. My name is Byfear. So, inside the pale heart of the Traveler, chaos reigns. I think. Who knows what's happening inside the Traveler right now? For all I know, it's still the Witness just slowly floating in the direction of the place where it's eventually going to build the monolith. In the meantime, though, the rest of the system has mostly gone quiet with bated breath. Most of us are now awaiting the eventual connection to Crow so that we can pass into the Pale Heart. But there is another war going on in the system, even though most of the other conflicts have ground to a halt, and that is the war within the Dreaming City. The one still eternally being fought between the Awoken and the aggressors of the Hive, Taken, and Scorn. This war has also been amplified recently by the ongoing efforts of other parties from those same three groups to invade the city and press it much more. And of course, there are then the Vex that have recently arrived to only complicate matters. This war is going to be our focus today, but not quite in the way that I originally imagined, and I think that some of you will agree when you've seen that title. There is no easy solution to Riven's curse, but Mara might have found an unconventional way of saving at least some of her people from the constant grueling battle against the curse on the Dreaming City. That being said, the cost of this plan is going to be extraordinary and might lead to further ruin if Mara is not careful. It also has to be emphasized that even with all of this, I still don't believe that Mara has a true solution with what she tried, merely a stopgap. So in these last few weeks, we've seen a lot of evidence that the constant war on the Dreaming City is taking its toll on Petra and the Awoken forces. Petra, of course, has been fighting this struggle ever since we enabled the Last Wish back in Forsaken. Since then, she also had to deal with incursions from Xivu-Arath's Wrathborn and her greater marshalling of aggressors that attempted to pursue Savathûn and the lost Techeuns that brought Mara Sov back. Now, Petra and her Corsairs are dealing with multiple invading enemy armies, each of them attempting to claim the power of the Ahamkara during their assaults on Riven's lair. Each of them is now struggling and still sort of sifting through the Dreaming City and the Confluence. Each of these enemy armies poses their own unique problems, and each of them is seemingly directionless. The Taken have remained as a lost and leaderless set of minions who are happy to infest any space they find themselves in, but they do not have many of the semblances of a greater plan just yet. The Scorn previously belonged to the Witness, but now are subtly being manipulated by Fikrul so that he might accomplish his own goals. Regardless, they tend to be a little bit thick, and more importantly, there's just so many of them. And finally, there are the Sol Divisive Vex, who seemingly have a concrete plan but none of the paracausal power to enact it fully. They flooded the Confluence in search of Riven's brood and were almost successful. Almost. They were hoping that they might use the Whim's wish magic to transcend their causal bonds, but when it truly came down to it, they were unable to secure any of the Ahamkara eggs. In short, it's been a long, long war, and the Awoken haven't been getting a reprieve from conflict in the Dreaming City for many long years. Take a listen to the toll it's taking on Petra in particular.
Our bargain with Riven is complete, but the Confluence remains vulnerable while we await passage to meet Crow.
Corsairs stand guard at every entrance leading into the Dreaming City. We won't lose another inch.
Neither will the Guardian. Let them shoulder this burden today. Keep your soldiers back from the fighting, Petra. They have seen enough of war.
Once the Confluence has been cleared of opposition and our link to Crow established, do you plan to keep it open, Mara?
No. It presents too much of a constant threat. Without a staple of Guardian warriors, my Corsairs and Paladins would be overwhelmed.
I'm not so sure Petra would agree. She seems quite capable, and intent on remaining so.
Yes, but she grows tired. There is a limit to all things, even those without end.
Fire team, this is a search and destroy mission. Locate enemy leadership and take them out.
With any luck, severing the head will leave the rest without coordination or focus. It will make any remaining forces easier to engage and slow the tide of reinforcements.
We only need to buy you and the Queen a little more time, right? Always a little more.
It has, and will, make all the difference. Petra, the recursions in the Dreaming City's curse, are they absolute?
Researching it, are you? Nothing breaks the loop. Those who remain here are doomed to repeat it.
Then why remain? Why not evacuate the city and reclaim it another day?
Osiris, how long were you in the Infinite Forest? How many timelines did you brave in search of Saint?
I see what you mean. My apologies.
None required. We love this city, and we will fight for it until the bitter end.
Even as the Awoken continue to fight against incredible odds, the search for a means to stop the curse on the Dreaming City continues. Many people are considering many avenues that might allow the Awoken to claim victory, but there is one that really caught my eye when I first saw it in dialogue. Take a listen to what Mara Sov says partway through this run of Riven's Lair. Maybe you'll understand, too, immediately why I think this is so troubling.
I walked the confluence before your fire team arrived. I found a lone Taken and ordered it to stop.
You are testing dangerous waters. That is familiar territory for you.
Imagine, to wield the Taken, to never order Petra to send another Corsair. It is the lesser evil by a great, wide margin.
So we definitely need to unpack all of that and talk a little bit more about what the implications of Mara just told us there really are. First things first, the dialogue was quite unclear and vague on something important to the whole question. Was Mara actually successful in commanding that Taken to stop, or did she command it and have it ignore her? She states that she commanded the lone Taken to stop, but just because she issued the command doesn't mean that it was obeyed. The whole sentence is frankly just really unclear, and I think even Mara dreaming about the possibilities of using the Taken as a force to relieve her Corsairs doesn't give us a concrete yes or no to whether that was actually successful or not. It could be her wondering about the applications should such a thing arise, or it could be her simply marveling at the fact that it's possible and that this is what it could do. Ultimately, there is no real answer here. So let's get back to basics and really think about what it takes to control a Taken and answer the question of whether she might be able to. In short, the Taken are mindless husks that have been completely corrupted by the Witness's powers of darkness. They are pliable and obedient forces that will obey the commands of the Witness or whoever is controlling them without question, and the reason behind this is simple. The Witness's immense power of will is what guides them. Sometimes these forces will be directed in the field by the Witness's conducting commanders, such as Eramis or Xivu Arath or one of the disciples, but ultimately their command of those forces is a gift from the Witness. In this moment though, the Witness is gone, and the major force that was holding the Taken together has also shattered. When Eris Morn banished Xivu Arath in the Season of the Witch, she sent shockwaves through her brood and her forces generally, including the Taken still under her command. Now we see many forces that were still loyal to the Black Terrace roaming the system without direct leadership or any kind of sense of real purpose. Under such conditions, the Taken act less like an organized army and a bit more like a rabid pack of animals. Still dangerous, but very much uncoordinated by comparison, and there are no other commanders to step into Xivu's shoes. Eramis, as we'll talk about in a later video, has fled the system. As it turns out, there are no other disciples that we know of, given that Nezarec, Callus, and Rorke are all dead. And maybe there isn't anyone left in the system that truly follows the Witness's will. This moment has presented something else for the rest of us though, a power vacuum. If someone has a strong enough will and can properly be infused with the power of darkness, maybe they can step into that power vacuum left by the Witness and Xivu Arath and take control of the Taken. Mara Sov is a prime possible candidate for such a position. After all, she was forged in both light and dark, and if there is someone in the system who could impose their will upon almost anyone, I'd say that Mara Sov is a candidate on that list. There are further questions to be asked here, of course. The first of which is simply, what might happen if Mara successfully did this? The second is probably about the risks of such a course of action, and I imagine the third is about whether or not this form of control would even be lasting or effective in the current war on the Dreaming City. Would it help to break the curse? We'll get to answers on that last one eventually, but sadly, I don't think so. To the first and second of these questions, I honestly have to say that I don't know what would happen if Mara did successfully control the Taken. On a personal level, she would definitely have to worry about corruption, if not by the Witness, then by the power that control over the Taken might represent. It's not simply a thing of saying corruption through darkness would be Mara Sov's end. It's also sitting there and stating that the Queen has many plans. Take a listen to this moment in the Parasite quest from the Witch Queen. It gives us a view into Mara's view of her place in the cosmos and the burdens that she feels she must carry. Keep in mind, though, this degree of willingness to shoulder burdens is certainly something that could lead to both those kinds of corruption. The corruption that is more common to humans, and the more metaphysical corruption.
Guardian, about what was said before, my contingency plans. Darkness corrupts. Eris, my brother Aldrin. You. Whether it be in this timeline or another, we cannot risk it. Sparing you all that dark fate is my burden.
Uh-huh.
It's an absolute last resort. They all are.
Okay then.
I'm not lying to you.
But you're not telling us the whole truth either.
I have my methods. You have yours. I only ask that you trust me.
We'd ask the same of you.
In due time.
I think what this really does say about Mara is that she's isolated. She is likely to carry burdens so that other people might not feel that strain, but it's entirely possible that she herself would be subject to the corruption that she is attempting to save others from. Against the power of the darkness, even the strongest can fall to corruption without proper support. And the thing that we have learned is that it's harder to be corrupted when you have others to intervene on your behalf and guide you through. And sadly, if Mara is shouldering those burdens and makes it hard for herself to be trusted, that is going to be a lot trickier for her to find. I personally don't believe any of the Parasite's words that Mara has ill intent, but I do believe in the strong idea that she is not immediately telling us everything at any one particular moment in time. Even during the Season of Defiance, when we gained her respect as wielders of both the light and the dark, it was certainly something that still lingered, just because that's who Mara is. She has learned and she has been able to let go of a lot, but I still think it's a problem. There are also the further consequences of this choice as it ripples out across the system that needs to be considered. Beyond Mara's corruption and beyond anything personal at stake, control over the Taken would make the Awoken the strongest members of the Coalition without a doubt. The devastating power of Taken shock troops that can interject anywhere on a battlefield at any time and any place, that would be enough to utterly decimate the Cabal and the Eliksni time and again. Lord knows they've already suffered defeats at the hands of the Taken many times. They know it to be true. Even with an army of Guardians to oppose any Taken that would contest their power, the best case scenario is that Mara Sov suddenly goes from controlling a beleaguered force of elites to commanding the largest and most tireless army in the entire system, and given the power of the Taken, potentially the whole universe. This is something you need to understand about the Taken. You must not doubt their power. They are a ruthless tool that has been used in conquest unmatched and unnumbered. The Taken have been the cause of the fall of thousands upon thousands of worlds, upon millions of civilizations, and we should not doubt how devastating that is. More importantly, the Taken follow their commander's directions without delay and without hesitation, and this means that the devastation they might cause, the ruthlessness of their tactics and the efficacy of their strategy would all be derived from the will commanding them, the will of Mara Sov. If she wished them to be used in a surgical manner, she would certainly be able to use them in a precise format. If she wished for destruction, if she wished for revenge, her foes would experience it as intricately as Mara might imagine it. Assuming her control was absolute, of course. And that is a question mark, because ultimately, only the Witness has been able to command them in such a manner. Remember that even characters like Oryx the Taken King didn't truly command the Taken. They were simply gifted that power. Finally, there is the purpose to which Mara is considering putting these Taken to work, and that's the next big question of all these. Question 3. The control of the Dreaming City and the chance that it might provide to allow her Corsairs to find some reprieve. Sadly, I think that in the context of the Dreaming City's curse, this would not be a solution. Some of the Awoken are not bound up in the curse. Those that are, unfortunately, find themselves at the heart of a terrifying trap. Hive, Taken, Scorn, and Awoken alike are all experiencing the same thing over and over. Every 3 weeks, they're repeating the cycle down to the most intimate details. Corsairs cannot seemingly leave the Dreaming City, even if they want to. When one of them dies, they aren't even alleviated from the cycle. They return at the beginning of the next 3 weeks, and they are simply stuck in that cycle over and over, being resurrected once more when the new week begins. If Mara was to insert her Taken forces, it's possible that they would simply not make a difference against the enemies whatsoever. Petra fights alongside her forces as is her duty, but she doesn't appear to be in the same dilemma as some of these Awoken who really are stuck. And I need you to understand how stuck they are. Listen to this Corsair from the weekly rotating mission. She describes what it's like experiencing the curse.
It was just like last time, cousin. I found the Hive looting a monastery. I intervened. I couldn't stop myself. Couldn't change anything. It was like I was a prisoner in my own body. I'd think run left and I'd go right. Shoot the ogre, and instead I'd shoot a thrall. They have the relics.
I think go one way and my body goes the other. That's the degree to which the curse has compelled them. They are trapped in their own bodies. Effectively, they're able to only watch as they play out the exact same fortune over and over and over again. They can speak and think and voice their opinions on it, but it doesn't change the fact that it always happens. This is what's so terrifying about the loop. It is truly immutable as far as we know. Mara can find relief for those forces that haven't been touched by the curse, who hold the line regardless of their station against the enemies in the confluence, those who are already tired and have been overworked ever since Zivur Wrath turned her eyes to the Dreaming City. But ultimately, those trapped in the Dreaming City's curse cycle are stuck there until we can fix the curse. And for all I know, not even control of the Taken would be enough to break that spell. It is bound up in both wish magic and Vex simulation, perfectly recreating every single loop in a paracausal knot that is hard to cut. So for now, even if Mara did take control of the Taken, I don't think it would save her people at all. Those trapped in the Dreaming City are there until we find a solution to break them free. But as for the wider implications of Mara potentially latching onto the Taken and commanding them, well, there is a power there. And after all, as she herself would say, her father is of the dark, even when her mother is of the light. The question of what happens to the Taken after the Witness's defeat is an open-ended one that I believe is going to matter immensely. They represent at current an enormous power vacuum. Whoever steps into it may find themselves not merely as one who is able to command a vast army, but also as one who could decide the fate of the universe. But with all of that said, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, go ahead and do all the typical things that assist the algorithm. Quick note here at the end, by the way, if the audio sounds different, it's because it is. I was finally able to move my setup to a place where I can actually work. For those of you who don't follow me on Twitter, I have been making a lot of changes recently, but also I've been trying to get my internet properly set up, and roadblock after roadblock after arbitrary roadblock is being thrown up in my way. So I had to move to a different location just so I could do my job. That being said, expect content to be flowing as regularly. And, as per usual, know that regardless of all that, your viewership, as always, is quite enough for me, come hell or high water or problems with my internet. And that, as per usual, my name is Bife. Rodacia ad Astra. I'll see you Starside.